Hi, I'm Edda, and this is Beauty Flip, where I help ordinary people discover what's so extraordinary about them. Today, we are diving into a paradigm shift. Maybe you are perfect.
Hi, y'all, you fabulous human beings. Oh my God, I'm so excited. This is a good episode. It's a really good episode. I'm so excited. I hope you like it as much as I do, because wow, if you do, this could be a paradigm shift for you. Yes, my lovely little human beings. Sing it with me. I might shift my paradigm. I might shift my paradigm. I might shift my paradigm. Let's do it. Okay, so in order to do that, we got to kind of like set up a little bit of some stuff here. So last week, I was talking about this way that it's like we are a great big puzzle, right? And we're like taking these little puzzle pieces, and we're putting them back into ourselves. In order to do that though, it's not as easy as just like, oh, is that a little bit of blue sky with a cloud on it? Can you give me that piece? I think it fits here. It's not that simple. Sometimes it might be, but it's not always that simple. Sometimes it requires for you to rethink, to look at mistaken beliefs about how you handled something maybe in the past or even currently. Yeah. So I'm just going to say, if you want more about what I'm going to talk about, I'm just going to give you a very brief overview, but my episode, season 1, episode 17, perception is really good, and you can just dive right into that. But let's just do a very baseline bullet point sort of version of what it is that I'm kind of tapping into on mistaken beliefs, so that we can get to the really juicy part of looking at all of you. All of us human beings are not actually seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, or touching anything. Your brain is in a black box. It cannot see, taste, touch, hear, or smell anything ever whatsoever. What it does is it takes a sensation in the body, and then that sensation in the body turns it into, if you will, like an electrical impulse, and it zips up to your brain, and your brain does millions, tens or hundreds of millions of calculations in a second. Let me do that again. I want you to hear the math on that. Your brain does millions or tens of millions or hundreds of millions of calculations that quickly. Every single second is calculating millions and probably billions of pieces of data, electrical impulses from every aspect of your internal and external experience as a human being. And so you must know, in order to calculate that fast, it requires thinking about using data from your past that was given to you by potentially other fallible human beings who potentially don't have all the answers, who potentially gave you incorrect information, or where you had a situation, and because of who you were in that situation, you might have made decisions. So basically, based on memory, cultural perspectives, who you are or who you've been, your brain starts doing calculations. This can lead and does lead to mistaken beliefs. It does not mean that you are an idiot. It just means you are human. Okie dokie. We can go into that more later, because it is perhaps something that is befuddling to all of us, but that is not why we're here today. So what if I make a promise? What if I make a promise to all of you? What if we talk about mistaken beliefs next week? Ooh, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, because it's a big one. It's a doozy. But that's not where I want to go today. So we're going to take that one, and we're going to put it on the table. Hi, table. We're putting it over there. Okay, my lovely lovelies, let's get into what the juicy, juicy little stuff is today. And to me, why I call this one a big paradigm shift. To some degree, we're going to get a little religious here. Yeah, religious. You know how I like spirit, but I am going to kind of just like take a moment to look at a little bit of how I experience things. But, you know, it ain't all about Edda and what she experiences, because she too is a fallible human who might have mistaken beliefs. She just said that at the top of this podcast. I did. But what I can tell you in my experience and my little body calculations, there are times where something rings so true to me, and I find profound experience of healing with certain of my clients and for myself and for my loved ones, where when we can go back to a moment and recollect that puzzle piece, as I called it last week, a part of you, miracles begin to happen. And I proposed to you, what if this is a big part of the game, is collecting all those little puzzle pieces. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, I did. So let's just kind of see what the heck do other religions sort of talk about this idea of Edda's little puzzle pieces, if you will. So pretty much across, I'm going to say, the Kabbalah, early Christianity, Sufism, Hinduism, and Buddhism, there is this sort of belief system or way that they speak about healing. And they describe it also as a recollecting of the scattered self, rather than fixing a moral flaw. And this is so important. When I am talking about going back and collecting a part of yourself and seeing potentially a mistaken belief, I am not saying you are a bad person. I am not saying that you did it wrong. I am saying you did what you did, and there is infinite grace in this world that we live in, and the way that we perceive and collect and live our lives, because there's always the chance to do it over again. And how do we do it over again? We change our perception, which then changes our life. Should I say that again? That was big. When we do this thing that isn't a moralistic thing, when Edda says, go collect a puzzle piece, or is in a coaching session with you and go, oh, look at that puzzle piece we've left on the table. Should we bring that one back with us? That is when we collect that piece of ourself, we change our perception of ourself and the world. And when we do that, it is infinite grace. And in that change is the possibility of becoming something that is potentially more divine, more truer to your God-given self, your truest form of your life. When we change our perception, you have a choice to redirect your life force, to redirect your focus. And in those redirection moments is where potentially you can discover more and more the attuned version, the one that is closer to your truest self, that is shedding maybe aspects of who you have tried to become in order to make it through a crazy little world on this little planet that we live on. So let's just take a look at some of these other ways that those 5 religions sort of speak about what I'm talking about. So I'm going to say, I call it like a puzzle piece that you're bringing back, and they're going to sort of translate it differently. Shall we? I remember this one really blew my mind away. This was like 25 years ago. I was on a pilgrimage in Israel, and we had the opportunity to be with a beautiful rabbi who was speaking, if you will, from a perspective of the Kabbalah. And he said these things to me that just was like, yeah, that's cool. I love that. He said that sin is considered in the Kabbalah not a moralistic failure. Sin is considered a moment of separation from our divine selves. Sin, they call it chet, which means literally, this word chet, C-H-E-T, means to literally miss the mark. And ultimately in that, it means to sort of turn away and become separated from one's divine alignment. Coolio. We're not going to go much into each of these, just going to tap into all of them. Early Christian mysticism basically said and believed that there was a scattering of ourselves, and that our life here was the returning to wholeness. So that ultimately sin is a place where we forget our true self. And that healing, a word that they call amaneses, is remembering what was forgotten. Ooh, love that. And that this human journey is a recollection of the fragmented heart. Ooh, love that. You know I'm gonna love that one. Okay, but let's go into Sufism. Sufism describes this kind of journey that we're on as gathering the lost facets of our soul. Ooh, I love that. Basically, that teaches the nafs, which are maybe your sort of lower self, fractures the heart because of fear, shame, and illusion. Okay, well, I guess they're kind of like agreeing with what I'm saying. And healing, and they call healing tawbah, is not a repentance. No, it's not that. But it is a returning to your center. Healing, which they call tawbah, is not a place of repentance. No. It is a returning to the center. I like that. And ultimately a place to gather the dispersed self back into unity to what they call the Ru, and Ru, R-H-U, Ru, which they call the divine breath. Oh my God, that tickles me to no end. Love that. Oh, but we have more. Let's look at what Hindu philosophy says. So Hindu philosophy basically is saying that our journey here on earth is reclaiming ourselves from Maya. And this is like this agreement, if you will, might be sort of dumbing it down a little bit, of us sort of forgetting who we are so we can be on this plane. So we sort of fall asleep, forget who we are, and Maya is the great illusion. So Maya illusion creates fragmentation and this sense of being many instead of just whole. And that healing, and the word that they have for healing, they call it smrana. And I hope I said that well. They call healing remembering. Isn't that beautiful? I love that. I really do love that. And also they call healing atma vichara, which is a return to yourself. Okay, I love that. And that this ultimate like liberation literally is described as a recollecting the self from false identifications. Oh my God. Does that sound a little bit like the mindfuck math or going up on that playing field? I think it does. Okay, I said there was a couple more here. Ultimately, Buddhism pretty much says, hey, we are here and we are the self, and we are scattered across sort of aggregates of thoughts, sensations, perceptions, and impulses. Oh my gosh, yes, that actually feels very accurate. And that may be, to some degree, almost like what neuroscience would say about us. And that suffering is when we are in a disintegration, when we have become disintegrated so much from our true self that we are beginning to create, if you will, attachment to things that are actually not even real and or what our true self needs. And that when we are healing, they use the word reintegration. So here we are now reintegrating through awareness, compassion, and presence. Wow, I love that. Even here in this great land of America, Indigenous traditions would consider that trauma causes a part of your soul to leave for safety. And ultimately, healing is when you are retrieving that part back and literally recollecting those lost parts and putting them back. I mean, that definitely sounds like the little puzzle analogy that I gave yesterday. Okay, so we now have looked at all these lovely little sort of religions and potentially even traditions of these fabulous ways of kind of contemplating our life here on earth. I love this. And now I'm going to help you understand how I experience this when I am coaching and or when I am working with people in energy healing. And what is this amazing journey that I am inviting you to join me on? Okay, so now I want to take you on my paradigm shift. Here we go. Are your seatbelts on? I'm putting mine on. Yeah, we wouldn't want to drive on this terrain without a seatbelt. Okay, so here we go. Now that you're buckled in, you came to Earth completely 100% whole. And many of these beautiful, fabulous religions and concepts basically say to some degree, we are in an illusion. We come here forgetting that beautiful wholeness, attunement to the divine. We sort of, it's part of the agreement. We just forget, like, okay, I'm going to pretend that I'm a human being and I'm here on earth to do a thing. And in that, we are then acclimated by other humans, parents and family and school and all the people. And then you have a brain that basically takes what your parents and your school and your communities, etc., have taught you, and they lay down a very powerful, if you will, program to calculate the rest of your life and the rest of the world by. Some of that is useful. How to tie a shoe. Love that for you. I'm glad you know that. How to get dressed, how to read, etc. Very, very cool and powerful, but truth be told, some of the things you were taught were by fallible humans who they themselves have potentially mistaken beliefs and taught you mistaken beliefs, or you had life happen to you, because that just happens. Life just happens. And there were moments where life pierced you. Maybe it was potentially a very raw and traumatic accident or health thing, or other humans saw and did something with you that just really hurt you. And then your brain did the calculations on what to make of the electrical impulses of all of that happening. And then your brain decided what to make up what is true. You have an opportunity at any time to go back and see the greater truth of all things that you have ever lived with. You have the greater opportunity to remember, to recollect each of these beautiful, powerful religions. They call us to do that. And to some degree or another, what if that is what we mean by like allowing ourselves to discover? What if we come down here basically saying, hi, I am going to go on a journey as a single entity called a human. And I'm going to be, if you will, Edda's little version of molecules, bombarded by other humans and other molecules, and they will, to some degree or another, affect me. And then I need to find the truer vibration through the bombardment of these molecule humans, through the bombardment of life in a 3D plane with time and space attached to me. And I'm going to find how to discover my path back to the divine. And when we take a moment, a beat, and when there is a moment and a beat of you having a painful moment, a feeling, you have the choice to use that powerful moment to recollect and remember something that is far more profound than your little human brain can understand at this point. But you have the opportunity. You are the opportunity. It is potentially what you came here to do. Yes, my lovely little human beings. If I had to say, this is probably one of the greatest and coolest scripts to flip it like a flapjack. Yes, my lovelies. I want to say it just pure and simple. Imagine you came here to forget so that you could remember all over again. Have you ever had that moment where you had like a really good, really powerful memory about, like, I don't know, being with like your bestie or someone you love? And when you remember it, it feels so delicious, and part of you just kind of wishes you could relive it all over again. What if that's what we're here to do? What if this crazy cool thing of life is the chance to relive it all over again? The greatest discoveries of just how magnificent and powerful and beautiful we all are, and how magnificent and powerful and beautiful union with the divine is. And we feel it in moments of kisses or smiles, or potentially having a pet or a human snuggle up against us, or a laugh. And the greater moments also can come from those pain moments. So not just the lovely moments where we feel good, but also the most rawest and vulnerable moments. The divine is there too. You exist fully in wholeness, and you are able to recollect and gather yourself so powerfully. That is the flip. That is the flip. I'll see you next week when we go more into this crazy world.
Thanks for hanging out with me. I really do hope I messed with your mind a little bit in a good way. Next week, I'll take you down that ride of mistaken beliefs. Yeah, because that's one we gotta handle too. See you then.